Hi, it's Amanda here, Creative Gardener, and you may be wondering why you're in a hoodie in the tropics. Well, I get cold still, and where we are there's an east-westerly breeze and it gets quite breezy down here. Anyway, that's not what I came to talk to you about. What I wanted to talk to you about today is that it's the second or third day since I planted all those seeds, the soursop, the lavender, rosemary, peas, watermelon, what have you, and nothing's come up yet. What's going on? Now, that's something that I think a lot of us may be starting out, and I would just generalize. So a lot of us starting out, well, I mean, and I've been at this now for like 3-4 years now, so I still feel this way sometimes. And it's that, yeah, you put the seeds in the ground, you plant, and you're going back and nothing's happening. Now I have to on a daily basis water, because where I am in the evening, whilst it's warm-ish for the seeds anyway, the sun comes down in this direction and it dries out the soil. So I have to make sure that, you know, it doesn't dry out, and then therefore the seeds have a harder time to germinate. But you always have this idea that in the tropics things just spring up and grow massive and grow really quickly, where to a certain extent that is the case, you know, especially in the rainy season. It's just like when the rainy season starts and in the middle of it becomes really lush here. And I used to have a problem with the not the Mexican sunflowers. I used to have a problem with the broadleaf thyme. And if you go back to some of my earlier videos, you'll see how, you know, they've just been like spreading like wildfire. And to a certain extent I used to find that overwhelming, but what I've done is work with it. And so there are areas of the garden where I want a natural mini hedge, or nothing grows because there's not really any soil, but lime, what is it? Lime and rocks. And so I found in those places the broadleaf thyme has no problem whatsoever, and if you pile them up against each other, they just, you know, the bottom ones root and maybe die off, and then the top, you know, as you layer it, they just start to grow. And there's an area, I don't know whether you can see it, just over here. So all of that is grown on the rocks. There's no soil there whatsoever. I think over time, as they do die down, and if I decided I wanted to plant something else on it, there may be some, you know, like as it's, you know, decomposed and kind of gone into, created the soil. But that area there at the moment, there was nothing that could grow on it, and so I got all of the broadleaf thyme that was grown in areas that it was just like, no, this is like, I'm going to be totally overwhelmed. I put it all over here and it's growing. And so this is a natural hedge that the dog doesn't jump over that because it's too wide. It's not necessarily high, but come the rainy season, when it starts to rain again, there will be I heard this exponential growth, so there'll be a lot of growth. So one of the things that you just have to be mindful is that things don't happen overnight, and it is quite easy to think to yourself, okay, you know, something should have happened now, and you go back and you keep it, you know, you keep he's having a field day, so you keep looking and unearthing. I don't unearth, but you know, you keep looking and you think, oh, you know, by now. But often what you have to do is leave it. And again, in the tropics, you can't afford to, in the sense that if it's a plant that, you know, it will do well on its own, then fine. but especially for the seeds and things like that, they do need watering. Or if you set up a system where it's going to get, over a week, it's going to get enough water and you don't have to bother it. But I found, again, as well, there are times where I haven't needed to, I've just planted something, left it, and then come back and thought, oh, wow, look at you. And that's where those things will happen, where you prepare the soil, you prepare the area, you give it enough mulch, you make sure it's not drying out, or you put some things in place. None of the beds that I have got any irrigation, so I am filling up from my water storage container. At the moment I've got an abundance of these bottles, which you can take these in and recycle them, and I think they give you 5 cents from every bottle. But what I do is I fill them up, and then especially in these areas where I know that there's a plant that just needs some extra water, like my noni plant needed just a little bit of help. I think the soil around it was getting really dry, and it's not, even though it's growing and it's been there for about 6 months, it's not yet at a stage where if I just totally left it, it would be fine. So I think if I can get it up to the rainy season, it will then just shoot off, and I'll have a nice big tree coming in the next, let's see, by the end of the year it will have established itself even more. So I go around with these bottles and I just, as I say, fill it up using my water storage container, and I'll also fill up some bigger bottles and then just go around. I've got a avocado plant that's coming up, and I'll show you in another video, but essentially, do not go back and dig up any plants. I'm not saying that you do, but there is a kind of an impatience. But find other jobs to do around your garden, and there's some jobs that it's like, under there, it needs to be done. I'm not ready for it yet, but I will tackle it in the next couple of weeks. It's on my list of things to do, but there's so many other things that I want to prepare, like the beds, so that when the rainy season does come, it's not washing away any of the soil, that I've got enough sticks around each bed so that I can build them up, and that I get rid of the ants from my elephant ears plant. They're in the pot, and yeah, I just generally look after some of the other plants that may need to be potted out or put out again, so that then is extra attention that they'll need, especially when like the sun is hot like this, and they're not really ready to go out and say yes, yeah. Okay. So wherever you are in the world, I hope that you're able to find a space that you can grow something. With the obviously with the directives to quarantine, self-quarantine, stay in, if you've got a garden, now's the time for you to use it. Get yourself some pots. I know some of the well, here anyway, the hardware stores are shut, and I'm just thinking, well, the garden centres will probably be shut as well. So where I would normally get my pots, they're not necessarily open, so now you've got to be inventive. If you've got a supermarket that also sells things like plant pots, then you're okay, but if not, then you're going to have to be inventive by recycling, by utilising the plastic containers that you might have. And it's just for now, just until you can either plant them out or get yourself some pots as things get back to, or get to a place of normality, where the shops are generally open. But really do think about things, and I will emphasize this over and over again, but the things that you can plant, and maybe as I say, if you've got a balcony, even if you haven't got a balcony, there are videos online on YouTube where people are growing in their apartments, and they've come up with some really ingenious ways, and there's different types of plants that they can plant up. If you've got, again, at this time where everybody's social distancing, you may be able to get cuttings. You will be able to get seeds. Like in my local supermarket, they've got seeds for sale. So I've just been buying. I brought like pumpkin. I brought what else did I buy? It's like squash, but it's a pumpkin. It looks like squash, but it's a pumpkin. I brought some more kale. I've got carrots. I've got zucchini, I think. Have I got zucchini? Maybe. I've got flowers as well that I want to see grow. This year it'd be nice to have some flowers and to be able to cut some flowers as well. Apart from the Mexican sunflower, that's what I cut and bring into the house. I also cut the scarvola. Anyway, going off tangent here. So, seeds. Nurture them, water them, look after them, watch out for pests, and you will be able to, get a harvest from. Some of the things that you're growing. And I'm even going to see. I haven't quite identified what kind of fern it is. I know it's obviously not edible. There may be some medicinal properties, and that's really, for me, one of the major things about growing not only food for your family, but things that will have medicinal benefits. So I take, say, the pomegranate leaf, and you can use it as a tea, or the broadleaf thyme, or you use that in the cooking as well. The moringa, and my moringa plants, they're not as bushy as they should be, so I'm going to need to cut some of them back so that they get bushier down at the bottom. Anyway, so lots to do, so that's just something for you to think about, and I will see you soon. Take care.